Hello and welcome. My name is Audrey. I'm going to guide you through the what we call the narrative section of your application form. So this is the meat of your application. By now, hopefully, you are familiar with the ins and outs of how to use your application form, and maybe you're familiar with some of the award criteria. The first section that I'm going to guide you through is the participating organisations. So I'm going to select my partner organisation here and go into their details. So the details here should automatically update once you've selected their OID. And then you have the legal rep and contact person as well. So this is this section I'm going to focus on. This section is important in terms of the relevance criteria for projects. I would advise that you ensure the quality of the answers for all of the partners involved are the same. You should maybe work with your partner to create a description that is clear, understandable, and meaningful to the Irish context. For example, in other European countries, it may be a given that a municipality works with young people and the approach is implied. However, this may not be as clear to the person assessing the application form. While our assessors are acknowledged in the youth sector, they may not have the knowledge of all of the different European countries. So you want to be clear about the aims of each organisation, the target group that they work with, the context that they work in, and provide clear examples of the work that they carry out. So the day-to-day work that they carry out. Then here you want to highlight the experience of the organisations. It's important that you include experience outside of the Erasmus Plus programme as well. We want to know what the day-to-day work looks like, or the regular work looks like that your organisation carries out. You can also highlight any relevant experience to the particular topic that you have chosen. Then here you want to describe the key persons, so name them. Who is coordinating the project? Who is involved in creating the application? Be clear about their relevant experience. In what capacity do they work with young people? And do they have any relevant experience to the project topic? You also have the option of selecting and filling in details of any previous projects that you participated in. It's not necessary to be experienced in the Erasmus Plus programme, and I should highlight that we do value and encourage newcomers to the action. So we're going to take a look at the project description. So this section is important in terms of the relevance criteria for projects. You really want to demonstrate the need for the project, link it to your organisation and the target group, as well as your partner's organisation and their target group. How was the need identified? How are young people involved in the process? Were they consulted? Did they have input? Then you can link your project to the priorities of the action. Are you familiar with the priorities of the action? Is there any national or EU policy which your project addresses? And then you want to talk a little bit about your partnership. So how did you meet your partner? Do you share any of the same values or missions? And then if you have any skills or experience that you are bringing to the project. And then there is a specific question for youth worker mobilities, and it's important that you situate your organisation within the context of the youth work sector. You want to demonstrate that the youth worker mobility addresses the needs of your organisation and the capacity to carry out youth work activities. You have the option of selecting topics. There are a number of topics that you can select from that you feel your project addresses. You can select up to 3. Then there's the section on participants with fewer opportunities. The Erasmus Plus programme aims to reach out and provide opportunities to all young people and participants, including those with fewer opportunities. There are a number of obstacles that these young people may face, or the participants may face, and they're highlighted below. So as you can see, there is a broad range of obstacles. I've selected geographic, so this could be rural isolation, for example. If your target group If your target group is young people with fewer opportunities, please select the option. The programme seeks to be inclusive, and we use the information provided to assist in our inclusion and diversity strategy. This section is also part of the relevance criteria of the application. While it is not a requirement that you include young people with fewer opportunities in your project, it is recommended that projects try to reach out and include all young people and all participants. So then you want to be clear about the supports that you will provide to young people with fewer opportunities. Reflect on the work that you already carry out with the group and identify what supports you provide. You may map out their journey in the project from the planning and preparation to the exchange itself. Try and identify any potential barriers along the way. Maybe there's concern that the participants may lose interest if the preparation phase is quite long. What measures can you put in place to try and mitigate this problem? Maybe the young people have never travelled before and may require support or guidance to ensure that their participation in the project is a positive one. So this leads me into the preparation of your project. So this is important for the quality criteria of the project. The information requested is all related to how you plan to carry out your project. An assessor will look at the information provided to determine whether the plan is adequate to implement the project. They will also look at if you have sufficiently addressed all logistics, in particular those relating to safeguarding issues, and if the plan demonstrates your capacity to carry out an international youth mobility. There are 4 sections to the preparation phase. So the first one is the practical arrangements. This includes plans for the exchange itself, but also logistic plans for preparation, mentoring and support. Try to address each element named and where possible provide specific details. Like, for example, if you plan to have preparation meetings with young people, where does this take place? If you have a safeguarding policy or procedure, name it. Do not assume that we know what measures you have in place. Then there is the project management. Here we want to know how you, as a coordinator, will manage the project with your partners and your participants. Tell us how and when you will set up agreements and what will be included in them. Define the roles of partners. Will they be, like for example, will they be involved in developing the content of the project? How will you ensure that the partners and participants are involved in the management throughout the project? You also want to detail how you communicate with them. So it could be useful to provide a timeline. We don't expect that you have meetings every week, but maybe you have them every fortnight or once a month. It's good to provide a clear structure if possible. So then we're moving on to the preparation of participants. This section is a really important part of your application. You should demonstrate how you will include and prepare your participants for the exchange. Youth mobility projects should support the active involvement of all participants throughout the project lifecycle. It is important that the project is adapted to and reflects the needs of young people and youth workers. Like, for example, what is your timeline for preparation activities? So the recognition of learning. As you can see, the application form includes the recognition of learning in the preparation phase of your project. For the recognition of non-formal and informal learning to be meaningful, it should happen throughout the project lifecycle, not just at the end. Youth Pass is the tool that we generally recommend. You should familiarise yourself with the process and the 8 key competencies. So then we're going to move on to the activities. So these are the youth exchanges or the youth worker mobilities or your advanced planning visits. I'm going to select the youth exchange. So this section is important both in terms of the quality of your project, but also somewhat in terms of your relevance. Your activities are assessed on the relevance to the action in that they should be non-formal in their methodologies. There are also a number of activities listed in the programme guide that are not deemed eligible. These include academic study trips, exchange activities which aim to make a financial profit, exchange activities which can be considered tourism, festivals, holiday travel, or performance tours. So for each activity you plan to carry out, you should provide a description and also justify the need to carry it out. As you can see here, it says, why do participants want to carry out this activity? The participants are a key element in this section. You should also, when you're describing the activities, the proposed activity and the programme of activity planned should be linked to the project objective set out at the start of the application, but should also link in with the learning outcomes. There is, as I said, participants are a key element, and there is a whole section about your participants. This should include details of the profile of the target group, how they're involved in all phases of the project, any supports in place to ensure active involvement. This can also include safeguarding measures and how participants connect with each other prior and after the mobility activity. It is equally important to clearly describe the participants involved in a youth worker mobility and connect these participants to youth work. You can even describe the target group that they work with and why the youth worker mobility will enhance their capacity to carry out their work with this group. So we're going to go to our follow-up phase. So we've done our preparation, the activities is our implementation, and now it's the follow-up. So there are 3 sections to the follow-up phase: the impact, dissemination of results, and evaluation. So this section is important both in terms of your project quality, but also in terms of the impact and dissemination criteria for assessment. It is sometimes good to start with this section, as impact that you identify is directly related to the objectives of your project. The impact is the change that you hope to see as a result of your project, and it should link with your objectives, the needs of the participants, and the learning outcomes. This is also the section of the application form that people have lost a lot of their motivation by, because it's at kind of more towards the end. So it can be a good idea to start with it. So you must identify impact at different levels for the participants, the organisation, locally, nationally, regionally, and internationally. So for the participants, you can reflect on the learning outcomes and what results you're hoping to see. So why you're carrying out this project, what you hope to see, what change you hope to see with them. And then maybe in your organisation, maybe there's changes in how you operate, policies or procedures or anything like that. And then in terms of nationally, regionally, and internationally, you might reflect on any policies that your project might be addressing. Keep in mind, it is not expected that your project should change the world. The impact should be realistic, and your project might be a small contribution to a bigger change. And we're going to go down to the dissemination of project results. So dissemination means to share. This process should happen throughout your project lifecycle, and it is important to include participants in the process. It is important that your plan is appropriate to the scale of your project. A clear target group should be identified. Think about who might be interested in hearing about your project. Why would they be interested? And then think about the best way to reach them. It might be through social media, or maybe it will be much more meaningful to showcase the project at a local event. You may even have identified a decision maker that you and your participants would like to reach. The final section here is the evaluation. So the evaluation should be planned and organised. I would recommend that it happens throughout the project life cycle. It can be really useful to identify where your participants are at in the beginning and track the change over the course of the project. You may also find it useful to help them to identify any expectations in the beginning of the project and track to see if they are met or changed. As this is a youth mobility project, it is valuable to include different non-formal evaluation methodologies to ensure that all participants equally engage in the process. So our final section that I'm going to go through is the project summary. So this section is the section that most assessors will read first. It is also the section of the application that will be made public. It is a valuable opportunity to sell your project and to highlight its value. Try not to copy and paste from other sections. Think of this as your conclusion. It should wrap up the different aspects of your project. The profile and number of participants should be included in the plan. It should be included again here. Youth mobility should always address the needs of young people, whether it's through a youth exchange or a youth worker mobility. So the profile of the participants is a crucial part in justifying your project. So I hope that has been useful in guiding you through some of the quality aspects of your project application. To continue, we do have more videos in our playlist of the application webinars.